celebrate Valentine's Day.
Aw.
You know what you can get her instead of a dozen roses? A dozen eggs.
Yes, well,
They're
Hey,
almost
big
as
money.
expensive. Yeah.
this has to go up here.
Whoa, let's not go overboard.
Yeah.
At least you can eat the eggs.
Look, dear, it was either a diamond or some eggs.
You might say you made the right choice.
I can beat the eggs, but you can't beat roses.
No.
Well, Kim's in Rock Hill delivering flowers at the old flower shop she used to work at. So,
Are they
They
paying
did.
her?
oh, yeah. She's been working all week.
All right. Well, we ready to get this
We're-
party started?
We're on the air.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen to our bad jokes. But that's part of
Hey,
it. Yes.
they're very subjective. Let's put it that way.
Our listeners are subjective.
The jokes.
But
Oh,
we subject our listeners to the jokes. That's the
right.
difference.
Well, there's that too. Right.
Because on this show, the subject is Trek. That just doesn't
Mhm.
roll off the tongue, does it?
No.
No.
The subject is trick.
All right.
All right. So I will
We're
await your
ready.
official
Oh,
countdown.
my count in. There we go.
Yes.
Make sure that the sound effects are working. There's the frogs. Yep, frogs are working. Okay. There we go. In 3, 2.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 177 for Friday, February 14th, 2025. Coming up in this episode, what's Star Trek worth? You might be surprised. Looking for new Star Trek action figures? Sure, we all are. Well, they're on their way. And we spend time with Sarek. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another thrill-packed edition of The Topic is Trek. I am Clinton, one of your co-hosts here on The Topic is Trek. And you know, I believe it's a philosophy that if you're going to be a co-host, you have to have other co-hosts with you. So, first of all, beaming in to join me from parts unknown with the hip new catchphrase that maybe you'll be thinking about sometime tomorrow is Mr. Craig Stepp.
I'd like to phone a friend.
Wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Just
We
got to
would.
find a payphone. That's all.
Yeah, a payphone. Good luck in this day and time.
I was watching a movie the other night and I was watching the first Sonic movie, and for some reason they feel compelled to have a scene where he goes to a payphone. It's like, why? What? There was no reason for it. Why? Anyway, also beaming in to join me from parts unknown is Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
We are three people of one mind, or we barely have one mind.
Yes, well that's more appropriate. Yes.
We're like half a mind for all three of us.
The IQ of maybe half of one.
Yeah.
So, how have you guys been since last we talked?
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, doing well. Yeah.
Doing good,
been
doing
great.
good. Starting my preliminary packing, although I'm not starting my preliminary packing, but I'm excited about going to Universal Studios Hollywood Fan Fest coming up in beginning of May.
Yeah, that looks interesting.
It does. It does. I will have a full report when I come back from that, but we'll probably talk about when we get much closer, what sort of things, because they still seem to be hashing some stuff out. They actually sent out a survey to people who have purchased tickets saying, what type of things you expecting to get? They've announced a bunch of things already, but it seems like they're trying to figure out fine tuning. Do we need more of this, less of that, 2 of these, one of those? Who knows?
I'm expecting Star Trek Voyager: The Experience.
Yes. Well, you talking about the Borg experience?
Yeah. Well, that would be Voyager, I guess.
Yeah.
Craig and I are getting ready to go on the Star Trek Cruise 8. Up to 8 already.
And I'm getting assimilated this time.
Oh, you're going to do the makeup?
If you're lucky, they don't accept everybody.
Yeah, if I don't.
They want your biological and technological distinctiveness. Well, Craig's distinctive, all right.
Yeah, this is our 5th cruise, and once you do 5, you become assimilated into the collective.
Oh, right.
And the following year, you get the benefits. So that's us. We got assimilated last year.
That's right. So, yeah, we'll be. I'll be going the next year as well. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, this year we get assimilated. Get to wear the cardboard eyepiece.
They play with cardboard before they put it on you, and then you don't hear from those people anymore. They just seem to,
It's cardboard.
Yes, cardboard. Yes, exactly.
Oh boy. All right.
All right. Well, with that said, it's time.
Wait a minute.
Yes,
Clinton, are you hanging out in Mount Salea?
I am. In apropos of today's story.
Rough climb.
Yeah, there's an elevator, but nobody ever talks about it. So
take the escalator of Mount Salea.
It's like the Dragon Con elevators.
The chairlift.
It's like the Dragon Con elevators. No.
All right, the elevator to Mount Salea. We ought to go down to go up.
That's All righty. Well, in order to start Subspace Chatter, we have to first check in with Charlie. And as we now know, we don't know if we'll hear from regular Charlie X, who's not that nice of a person, or pleasant mirror Charlie X. So let's find out. Charlie, is it okay to start Subspace Chatter?
Sure thing, friend. I love Subspace Chatter. Let's get going.
I love how his enthusiasm just goes.
Yeah, he's just all psyched about this stuff.
Sure thing, friend. I love Subspace Chatter. Whoa, someone needs their meds.
Somebody drank a 5-hour energy drink.
Don't give him any of those. You don't want that. All right. Now, in Subspace Chatter this time around, I have tasked myself with 2 big articles to get through as quickly as possible. So let's start on the first one, shall we? Figures calculated by Parrot Analytics show how the long-running Star Trek franchise has been a reliable moneymaker, not only for Paramount Plus, but other streaming platforms. Covering the period running from the first quarter, or Q1 of 2020, until Q3 of 2024, their model estimates the show and movies in Star Trek franchise has generated over $2.6 billion in subscriber revenue for major streamers globally.
Wow.
But it wasn't Paramount Plus that profited the most during that. Paramount Plus that profited the most during that. That's tough to say. During that time period. Oh, no. That honor goes to Netflix. Due to its international streaming rights and the sheer scale of its global subscriber base, it put Trek content in front of the most eyeballs and monetized it better than a smaller platform could. In fact, during the 45 months in question, the ones that we're talking about here, Netflix earned just over $1 billion in global subscription revenue from the Star Trek franchise. Wow. Over the same time, Paramount Plus has raked in roughly $940 million, while Amazon Prime Video, which has global rights to Star Trek Picard, among others, generated $466 million. All other streaming services accounted for the remaining $225 million. Oh, a mere pittance there. Now, we're talking mostly about the series, but looking at the 13 Star Trek films during the same period, they generated $198.6 million globally in subscriber revenue across all streaming platforms, underscoring the fact that Star Trek is a TV series-driven franchise Well, duh. Well, that means that any direct financial impact that a streaming release movie like Star Trek Section 31 might have for Paramount Plus, one benefit of the deeply interconnected Star Trek franchise is the spillover effect a new release like this can have, because Section 31 is a direct spin-off of Discovery. Paramount Plus is set to benefit the most from any crossover viewing. That's because Paramount Plus is now the exclusive home of Star Trek Discovery in most markets, now that Netflix has lost the international streaming rights.
Aha.
So they get any of the goodies that come out of that. And this brings up one more interesting point. While both Discovery and Picard were available on Paramount Plus domestically, Netflix had the international rights to Disco, while Prime Video was the international home for Picard. And even though Picard ran for only 3 seasons, it generated $100 million in revenue for Prime Video, more in revenue for Prime Video than Star Trek Discovery made for Netflix, which had 5 seasons total. Although I don't know if they had them. I don't know if they had. Well, I guess internationally they probably did have exclusive rights to all of them. Hopefully, the amount of revenue that these titles make for Paramount Plus will eclipse the competition in time, as Paramount fully recognizes the value of its own franchise going forward. Prodigy, but that's another
Right.
story.
If you're
So,
not watching the video, you're missing a cool bar chart.
Yeah.
I put
know, I
logos
was-
in there just to help out.
I was thinking, as they say, rising tide lifts all boats. So I wonder how much money, aside from just Star Trek, how many people, were subscribed to watch Star Trek and everything, and then saw other things on these platforms, how that
Mhm.
affected it, and how Star Trek is a percentage of like what Netflix earns altogether, not just for Star Trek, what kind of percentage that would be.
Yeah, I think so Parrot Analytics does a lot of their stuff behind a paywall because it's really an industry thing. They happen to publish this one, and a bunch of outlets ran with the story. Whether or not Parrot Analytics wanted them to, I don't know. But they probably do have figures on, as the industry would say, eyeballs that were drawn in, to watch Star Trek, and maybe then went on to stream something
Mhm.
else in
Yeah.
addition. But
These are big numbers. I'm just curious
Yeah.
how much of a percentage this is of the grand scheme of things.
right, so we're talking, in this case, this is a period of 3 3/4 years, $2.6 billion globally,
Mm.
which also makes you think about, well, gee, I wonder why they're concentrating on the series rather than putting a lot of emphasis on the movie, because it seems like the movies themselves don't add a lot to the equation here, at least as far as streaming goes. Now, for the
Well-
theatrical division, that could be completely different. But especially if you have something like, say, you have the Kelvin verse, you do another Kelvin verse movie. Well, there's no real direct tie-in to go to from there,
Yeah.
right? If you go to the streaming service,
Well-
well, there's no Kelvin timeline series to go to.
Well, think about the movies. They've all been out for quite a while. However, the series, you end up there's a lot of different stories, just TNG or Inside of Voyager and all that. It's just a bigger library. So I would think that the bigger library, even including Discovery and all that stuff, the bigger library would probably generate more money because people might watch 2 or 3 episodes or more at a time. I know I do.
And if we learn
watch
one thing
people-
from YouTube, it's that the idea is to keep you there. Once you're there,
Right.
keep watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's
Hey,
move on
but
to our
I
next
will
story.
say this too.
Oh,
Just one
go
more
ahead.
thing.
Nope.
I think this is a good. It sounds like it's good news if you're a Star Trek fan, because it's generating some revenue for companies to funnel that back into the continuing on with new series, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's one of the reasons why Netflix grabbed Prodigy. Although we still don't have any word on a 3rd season. And you would think that it would be to their benefit to have a 3rd season.
Right.
Yeah.
Based on
Look
what
how,
they've earned from the previous couple
Yeah.
of years.
I'll say, yeah. Look how much money it made. Well, cool. All right.
All right, Chuck, what do you got for us?
In a recent interview on the Decon Chamber podcast, Discovery co-creator Brian Fuller teased the version of the show that we never got. Fuller said that he had been talking to Richard Armitage about playing Sarek, a role that ultimately went to James Frain. He added that Gillian Anderson was going to play a Starfleet captain and that he wanted to cast Lawrence Fishburne, Cowboy Curtis from Pee-wee's, sorry,
Yeah,
Indeed.
exactly.
as
Yeah.
a Klingon. Howdy, Pee-wee.
Howdy, Captain Burnham.
He also indicated that Anthony Rapp and Wilson Cruz's roles had been flipped because originally Rapp would have played an Andorian doctor. Fuller mentioned that on his last week working on Discovery, he approved the Starfleet uniforms, which were eventually tossed out, and rejected the Klingons, which were kept.
Which is interesting because people had problems with the uniforms and the Klingons. So
Yeah, the uniforms for me kind of half and half. The Klingons, I definitely had a problem with them just because they were such a big departure.
and so did the actors when they tried to talk that first
Yeah,
season.
yeah, marble mouthed. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What did you say? What?
Oh my gosh. Takuma. I heard him. It was Chuck.
Okay, Craig, you've got our next story.
All right. So Master Replicas has announced a massive program to deliver action figures based on modern era Star Trek series for fans who love action figure collecting. The first series covered their program include Star Trek Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, and Section 31. They also showed off a prototype of 7 of the figures, Worf, Riker, and Picard from Star Trek Picard, and Spock from Strange New Worlds, and Boimler, Mariner, and Tendi from Lower Decks. So starting this summer, Master Replicas will be releasing new figures every month, kicking off with the Admiral Picard and the 3rd season of Star Trek Picard from the Star 3rd season, and Strange New Worlds version of Spock. These figures are now available for pre-order at masterreplicas.com. The figures are approximately 4.5 inches tall and have a price tag of $26 each, $25.99 each. I saw these. These look pretty cool. They look good.
They do. I tell you, especially, if I was Eugene Coderos going, really, you couldn't also have one more Lower Decks figure?
No,
in the
no.
shot? Really? But
Right. I would. You know what? I would totally buy a Rutherford. I'd buy the whole all 4 of them if I had Rutherford.
well, they
You
will.
know,
I mean,
What's the excuse for not having? They're sort of a foursome.
yeah,
I can understand leaving off T'Lyn, but not Rutherford.
right.
Yeah,
Well, the
right.
thing is that these are just, they happen to have these prototypes available for it. So then that's not necessarily even the order that they're working on releasing them. So I'm sure we will get Rutherford in here.
You know what? This reminds me a lot of the Mego characters action figures I used to have.
Except they look like the characters. Supposed to
What?
be.
The Mego ones, yeah, they were
Yeah,
kind of,
Joe repainted.
yeah. Or the Klingons had the same weaponry and technology as Starfleet, but they were red instead of blue,
There's
like
stories
the
behind
tricorder
them.
and stuff. Yeah, the
We should go into
phasers
the
all
stories
look the
behind
same.
that at some point about why they look the way they look. But
Yeah.
all right.
If we don't get a Rutherford, we'll carve one out of soap.
Yeah, that's after we carve that flute out of soap. But anyway.
Right.
That's
Flute
what I
All
soap.
did with my old soap flute. I made a Rutherford.
Hey, by the way, that Picard figure, his torso looks a little long, doesn't it?
think he
No,
looks
it's
good.
perfectly fine. It's
I think
perfectly
he looks good.
fine.
You think so? All right.
Sir Patrick.
Next story. School's out for Starfleet Academy. The newest series of the Star Trek franchise wrapped its first season of filming at Toronto's Star Trek stage. Zoe Steiner shared a selection of pictures on Instagram, waving goodbye to the stage and displaying a souvenir pennant given to the cast and crew for the show's first season. She posted that The 6-month shoot included some 12-hour days, which have earned them all well-deserved rest until season 2.
Which begins filming next week. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Fellow cast member Bella Shepherd posted a picture that showed off the crew and the crew jackets and shared a brief clip of the show's teenage cast horsing around with Tig Notaro.
School's out for Starfleet.
We
Starfleet.
can't afford it. We can't afford the rights.
I want to see what he comes up with rhyming for the next verse.
Yeah, right.
Now, I've heard rumors, only rumors, that we may be looking at 2026
Mm.
For season 2?
for
season 1? Really?
Look,
Yeah.
look, we're not getting any younger. Please throw this stuff out. Get it out there.
Well, don't throw it out. I
Don't
mean,
throw it out. That's not.
No,
yeah,
don't throw it out. I mean, like, get it out there. You know.
but
Craig?
we will.
I
we-
think Star Trek's going to go on long after we're gone.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. No. I'm taking it out with me.
The new series comes in on next Tuesday. Is what we'll hear on our deathbed. So there we go.
Yeah. No, I'm looking
Ah.
forward to it. I am looking forward to seeing what they cooked up here.
Absolutely. All right. Now, it's been a while. So this is officially the Battle for Paramount Mountain Part 12.
Woo!
right.
Strap in,
Wait.
boys.
Hey, wake Chuck and I up when you're done.
This is where you get to put the podcast on double speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So I just wanted to go bullet point several things that have happened, and you can see the wave of stuff that's going on right now as far as Paramount Global goes. And I'm not even touching on all the issues that Paramount Global is having with things with Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy with Sony and all these other things. We're just going to concentrate a lot on the merger and a couple things that are clearly a result of the belt tightening because the merger has not happened yet. All right, so let's get through these as quickly as possible. All right, the first thing is a Delaware court ruled that the Employees Retirement System of Rhode Island, which owns Paramount shares, showed there is a credible basis to infer potential corporate wrongdoing tied to the pending takeover by Skydance Media. The decision overturns an August ruling by a magistrate judge who rejected the fund's request for records. So you can see something's building there. Next up, we have, I'm going the wrong one here. Sorry, hold on a second. Okay, second one is reports surfaced that Brendan Carr, new Federal Communications Commission chairman, is putting increased scrutiny on Paramount, more specifically on Paramount CBS, which is the target of a news distortion complaint. Originally, that complaint was dismissed, but Carr is bringing it back. The complaint issued by the Center for American Rights is about the 60 Minutes interview when the then presidential candidate Kamala Harris, when she was interviewed. The complaint alleges that the interview was edited in such a way as to make Harris look better. CBS has already turned over the unedited transcript as well as raw footage from the interview itself. Next, in a separate but related action that could affect Paramount Global's financial status, sources began reporting on rumors that Paramount Global was considering settling a $10 billion lawsuit filed by now President Trump. The lawsuit is in regards to the same 60 Minutes interview with Harris. Staff at CBS News were unhappy about these reports. Shortly thereafter, President Trump amended his lawsuit against CBS, adding Paramount Global as a defendant and also amending his damage claim, doubling it to $20 billion. Interestingly, the amended complaint came 2 days after the FCC released the raw transcripts and the unedited video of the 60-minute interview. The unedited interview footage confirmed CBS's account that Harris had been quoted accurately. Next, 5 of New York City's pension funds have filed a class action lawsuit seeking to pause Paramount's pending $8 billion merger with Skydance Media, alleging that controlling shareholder Sherry Redstone, oh, my buddy Sherry Redstone, not out of it yet, and members of the Paramount Special Committee that evaluated bids breached their fiduciary duty.
He said
Next.
fiduciary.
Paramount Global is hitting pause on select events in 2025, including the MTV Euro Music Awards and the CMT Music Awards, to, quote, reimagine what they might look like in a future and optimize its tentpole strategy. The move is viewed as more belt-tightening at Paramount. The pause will not affect the MTV Video Music Awards or the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards in the U.S., as well as some other local events. Next, and beginning on February 13th,
Oh, yeah.
the day we recorded this, Paramount Global's channels, including BET, CBS, CBS Sports Network, Comedy Central, MTV, Nickelodeon, and Paramount Network, are currently unavailable on YouTube TV. The two companies failed to reach a contract renewal. Paramount claims that the YouTube is attempting to pressure it into accepting one-sided terms and, quote, non-market demands, quote, that could lead to the removal of Paramount Networks from YouTube. For their part, YouTube, owned by Alphabet, said that it is actively negotiating with Paramount to maintain the channel on YouTube TV without affecting subscribers. Adding that if an agreement can't be reached and content is unavailable for an extended period of time, YouTube will offer subscribers an $8 credit.
Wow.
gosh.
On the
$8.
was it like $87 a month? What a generous offer.
And that's where we stand currently on the battle for Paramount Mountain. Lots of dollar figures and shenanigans going on with lawsuits and this and that, and it's the fiduciary duties and all those type of things happening. So stay tuned. I guarantee, as I knew there would be, there will be more. Ugh. And as if that wasn't enough overall, we have links to 118 additional stories.
Yikes.
Broken out.
Right.
Exactly, Eric's broken out by series. Oh my goodness, he's really on.
Wow.
And other categories. We have everything from a new Star Trek Online chapter involving Hugh and the Borg. Yes, Hugh is back. Go figure. To an article Stamets would love about how space explorers could grow habitats from fungus. Just head over to the show notes for episode 177. Happy Valentine's Day over at thetopicoftrek.com.
How many bells did we get that time?
We got to get all the bells. All the
4
bells.
3/4.
Yeah. Right.
And now comes a favorite part of the show for me, because this is when we get to close up Subspace Chatter, and I get to say, oh, well, it's bittersweet this time, isn't it? Because we have to say goodbye to Mirror Charlie, who's good Charlie, but goodbye, Charlie.
What if the evil Charlie said goodbye? What if they mix you up?
Oh, no. He's pretending like
Thanks for having me along. It was fun. But now
Okay.
my Phasian step-parents are calling, so I gotta go! Go!
Sorry, his facial hair makes me laugh there in that picture.
Coming in good this week.
yeah, he's trying. He's trying. He got inspired, to give it more of a go when he saw how Boimler was doing. I'm sure that eventually he got a beard, so he's hopeful. He's hopeful.
Yeah.
All right, but now it's time to head out on our main mission with an appropriate sound effect.
Ooh, we need a sound effect.
Okay, since you're going to be doing majority of the talking here, Chuck, Craig, will you do us the honors and just give us some background on what we're going to be talking about?
Sure. So we're going to be talking about the Star Trek novel Sarek, hardback published in 1994, March of 1994, written by A.C. Crippen and Carol Crippen.
Crispin.
Yeah, we got Crippen. And Carol Crispin was the author of 23 published novels, including several Star Trek and Star Wars novelizations. She also created the original science fiction series called Starbridge. 2 of her Star Trek novels, Yesterday's Sun and Time for Yesterday were direct sequels of the third season TOS episode, All of Our Yesterdays. Okay, kind of makes sense there. They detail the life of Spock and Zarabeth's son. So Yesterday's Son was the first non-novelization Star Trek novel to appear on the New York Times bestseller list. How about that? So Chrisman passed away at the age of 63 in 2013, far too young, after a prolonged battle with bladder cancer. So the story takes place shortly after the events of Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, and also includes flashbacks to events prior to those seen in the original series.
And with that, I've got a few graphics I may throw up from time to time of
Okay.
either characters or potential what a character might look like in this, because I kind of did a little bit background, but
We're shadow.
Mhm.
puppets.
yeah, we'll bring in
Hey.
the shadow puppets later.
Now, also, I want to add that the book that I'm reading, back here for I'm pointing at it like it's right there. It also takes place after an undiscovered country, so there's a lot
Interesting.
going on right after that. Yeah,
There is indeed.
yeah.
One recommendation that was made in the future is that when we do a book report like this, we all read the same book so we can all contribute, which I think is a wonderful idea.
The trick is to pass it around.
I'll say logistically.
Or we just go to the loaning library. You know, they have Star Trek books on Hoopla.
All right, well, why don't we can do that for next time around. So,
Yeah.
Craig, are you taking the next one? How
Yeah, I thought I was going to be the next one.
right.
We can see
Okay.
about doing that.
Yeah, shoot us the title and an author, and we'll see if we can find it on alternate sources. And
Okay.
then we can all do it. We can all contribute. Like you could be the main reviewer, and then we can say, yeah, what about that part when? Or,
No,
I
you know what?
saw that differently.
I think that does make sense of
Yeah.
us all reading the same thing. But logistically, it was easier to say, here's 3 books and go read them.
Right.
But sure, yeah, we can do that.
I'm thinking of the listener, not us.
Why?
We're-
Oh my
we're
gosh.
putting the listener going,
kidding.
well,
Yeah.
I
well,
used
don't
that-
understand.
I
How
used
did that
I
happen?
used it singularly, the listener.
The listener.
Yeah. The listener.
All right. So we start out on Vulcan and we find out Sarek suspects something's going on against the Federation, but he doesn't divulge much at this point. He just goes, I've got an idea. And you know how Vulcans are. They're not going to really disclose much without a lot of data. And he doesn't have enough data, even though he's been thinking about this for decades. We also find out that Amanda isn't feeling well. So
Hmm.
tells her you have to go see the doctor. She goes, well, I don't know. I totally get this. Sounds like my mom right now. Meanwhile, Sarek has to go to Earth to address a diplomatic matter. So we jump to Earth, and when he gets there, there's a mob outside the Vulcan embassy, and they call themselves KEHL, the Keep Earth Human League.
Which is interesting because that has shadows back to, I can't remember what the name of the organization was in Enterprise, where they were having that same
Yep.
type of thing going
Oh
on.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I almost forgot about that. You're right.
Sarek went to Earth really just to get more information about this plot he's been kind of putting together to see if he could find out anything new. And while he's there, he asks, hey, maybe I should go out among the crowd and try and talk them down.
Seems like a great idea.
Yeah, and the embassy is going, probably not. But hey, I've got my assistant Saran here. He'll take care of me, right? So he tries to have a conversation with the leader of this KEHL. I'm just going to call him Kale. Nobody likes Kale. We use that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
I
good.
like kale. I like fried kale.
His name
Yeah.
is Induna. I don't think it ever comes up much later in the story, but that's okay. When the mob goes into a frenzy and attack, they managed to get away. Of course, Sarek does a Vulcan neck pinch. In the midst of all this, he touches Induna. I don't know if it was inadvertently or on purpose, or he neck pinched him. And he gets this impression, almost like a mini mind meld. he gets this impression that Induna's being mentally manipulated. He's being coerced in some way. And this sort of ties into his theory, but again, he still lacks facts, so he doesn't reveal much to anybody. Shortly thereafter, Starfleet security shows up and, breaks up the crowd. Break it up, boys. Because you got to have the
Nothing to see here. Come on, move
arriving
on.
a little too late. This is where we're introduced to a new race called the Freeman. And we don't know much about them because they've never been introduced in any other story we've heard of.
Hence the reason, yes.
But they're shrouded, they're robed, their voices are distorted.
Darth Vader? No, that's
A
not.
very monotone, non-emotional expression of voice. And nobody apparently has been to the Freeman planet. You have to meet them in these neutral settings. And they always seem to have a Vulcan attaché with them, which is curious. But we find out that Sarek has a Freeman contact named Taran and his attaché Saval, which I believe was a female. I'm sort of forgetting at this point. But Sarek and Taran have had this long-standing relationship, and they often play 3D chess, which we'll get to in a little bit. Flip the scene. We're introduced to Jim Kirk's nephew, Peter. Now, he was on Operation Annihilate as a young man, but now he's a Starfleet cadet. He's 32 years old. He's late to the game, figuring out where he wants to go with his life, and he wants to be a diplomat. But he also, while he's there, he said, "Hey, I want to talk to Sarek. He's a diplomat. I should talk to him. I understand he's at the embassy."
This
So
is a great day to do that.
He's heading towards the Vulcan embassy just as that mob is forming, and he gets swept up in this. And someone mistakes him for being part of the crowd. So he uses this to his advantage to try to gain some inside information, almost like being a mole. Inadvertently. It's like, hey, that seems like a good idea. So he doesn't get to connect up with Sarek. Sarek returns to Vulcan, and Amanda comes back and says, "Yeah, things aren't going so well. It looks like I'm going to die." And she said,
Wow.
Sarek,
Oh, hey.
do not tell Spock. But we find
Don't
out he
tell
does so
Spock.
anyway.
I was gonna say that's like stay in the car. Don't go in the house.
Right.
Don't tell Spock.
They talk it through, and she goes, "Well, okay, I guess you're right." But when Sarek says, kind of told him already, she's absolutely livid until they talk it down. So we find out that Sarek has to go. I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. I got a couple bullets out of order here. We're introduced to the Klingons in chapter 2 because we got to have Klingons in this story too.
Of course.
So we have some major characters. One is a Klingon known as Kamarang, who absolutely hates Kirk because he killed his brother in Star Trek 3 when Krug was done in on the Genesis planet. Apparently, Kamarang's brother, whom we don't know his name, was
So
one of those.
Kamarang is the character who was played by John Shook in the movies.
Was it? No,
Yes.
he was a lawyer.
No,
He's like Worf's
was an
great
ambassador.
Oh,
He was
John
an-
Shook. Yes, you're right. You're right. Michael Dorn played his grandfather. That's right.
This is
Wow, he came
outrageous.
across- He
Yeah.
came across as much worse. Okay, so Kamarang got it. We're also introduced to his niece, Valdir.
There he is.
Goodbye,
No,
Charlie.
get off the stage.
Valdir is Kamarang's niece. He raised her because apparently dad and mom died, and she seems more honorable. We also have Karg, who is a longtime friend of Kamarang. Where'd you get that picture? Oh, best guess.
These are best guesses for I got
Okay.
a couple of these
Yeah.
characters.
That's a
Yes,
female
yes.
Klingon, all right. All right. But Karg is a longtime friend of Kamarang, and he's not really a nice guy. Okay, so Kamarang he calls this secret meeting underground on Kronos, and he's part of this rogue group of Klingons who does not align and doesn't believe in Chancellor Azitbur. Now, remember her? She's the daughter of
This-
Chancellor Gorkin.
This is
Yep,
there.
there she is. Yeah, we all remember her. All right. Well, she's doing just a fine job running the Klingon Empire, except for some of these rogue Klingons.
Malcontents.
So, in this secret underground meeting, Camarang discusses with some of the others a plot to attack the Federation, and he also announces that, oh, and by the way, Valdir, you're betrothed to Karg. It was an absolute creep. I mean, I'm not going to go into any of the description, but he is creepy. Very, very misogynistic and creepy. Okay, enough of that. Now we finally get to the Enterprise. They're on a mission helping a colony that's been attacked by some of these rogue Klingons.
Hmm.
Spock gets a message that his mother is dying, and Kirk says, no, you must go. And Spock says, no, I have to stick with my duty, which is hints of Journey to Babel. Anybody?
Mm-hmm.
He gets home, and we have a nice scene with Spock and his mom spending some time in the garden that she created and curated over the decades. And she has this conversation with him about death and dying, as you know, because you've done that, right? What's it like?
Yes.
So, I thought that was a little over.
I thought you were talking to us. I was
Because
like, what?
everybody talks to Spock about that, and McCoy
Right.
wanted to know, hey, what's it
It's,
like?
it's either
Yeah.
Spock or Jesus, and Spock's nearby.
Space Jesus.
Or maybe he's a zombie. All right. So anyway, Peter is now working with these Kale people, and he's looking for facts that he can use. And he's getting close to their leader, shall we say? As in smoochy close. When he finds some
He's a
information,
Kirk, all right. He's a Kirk, all right.
yeah. Oh, wait, it gets better. He finds some information. He goes to Starfleet Security, but they don't take him seriously. And this is where I went, but can you trust Starfleet Security? Right? We couldn't
Is there an
trust him.
admiral involved? Then you know you
Right.
can't trust him.
Is his last name Cartwright? So he sends a message off to Uncle Jim, which seemed like a good backup plan when Starfleet Security is not taking you seriously. There's a part in chapter 3 that kind of feels like a throwaway at first glance. So you've got another Klingon named Karaz, who's attacking an Orion colony on Deneb 4. But he stops just sort of like getting everybody murdered. He says, I'm feeling benevolent today. He doesn't feel like this is tactically or strategically important. I think he's being ordered by Camarag, like, hey, go attack this outpost.
Hmm.
It's sort of like, let's see if you can follow orders kind of
I'm trying
thing.
to remember Deneb 4, where we've seen that.
We've heard of that before. Yes. I'm not pulling
It
it up
will come
immediately.
to me. It will come to me.
Okay. So anyway, they call on Sarek. They say, you are the man for this job. And he knows Amanda is dying and only has a couple of days left. But again, he feels bound to his duty. I'm the only, she says, no, you're not the only person who can go. Send somebody else. And he says, no, I must go. It's my duty. And she kind of swallows it hard and goes, well, that's the man I married. So, but Spock is not taking this well. He's very upset, even though Amanda accepts it. Back on Earth, Peter gets a call from Captain Kirk telling him, hey, nephew, Peter, I'm in town. I'd like to see you. I'm like, how? He was on a colony. How did he? What? This doesn't make sense. But Peter's on his way over when he gets into a fight. He's like, psst, hey,
What?
you want? He's on his way over and he gets flagged down, dragged into an alley. He does a pretty good job because they say he's got martial arts training, but he eventually is subdued.
Does he get in a good double fisted
Yeah.
punch there?
Obviously, the call from Uncle Jim is phony.
It's a ruse.
It was a ruse to get him out of the apartment and kidnap him. So I told you can't trust Starfleet Security. That's where I went. Gee, I wonder how somebody knew how to attack him.
Hmm.
So Meanwhile, things are going well for Sarek at the negotiations on Deneb 4 when one of Kara's gang goes absolutely nuts and attacks Sarek. And in the process of fighting, Sarek makes contact with his attacker and gets the same kind of impression that he's been mind controlled in some way. So this is now
Hmm.
building his suspicions like, yeah, all this aggression towards Starfleet may be coming from another direction or worms
Somebody's
in the
pulling the
brain.
strings
We
or
don't know
something.
yet. He
Yeah,
doesn't have
everybody
enough
loves
evidence yet.
Starfleet. Come on.
So all throughout Sarek's adventures, he's before he goes, Amanda says, "Hey, I want you to take my journals because you may not make it back in time, and there's some things in there that I want you to know." And he's been reading them about when they met, having Spock as a son, Spock telling Sarek he's going to Starfleet. These are many of these are scenes we're familiar with. I mean,
Hey,
maybe
was there any mention of Michael?
no.
I didn't
But
think
there
so.
is a mention
It
of
was written in
Cybok.
1996.
There's a mention of Cybok in it, though.
And
Is there?
they
Okay.
do these flashbacks from her side, and then they'll augment with his memories. So it's kind of a cool flashback sequence. You could see it happening, but from two different angles. It was really interesting. One of the entries is about when they were married, and part of the Vulcan wedding is you have to join mentally, and how deeply meaningful this was for Amanda that they can
Remember.
now quite
Remember.
not quite, communicate telepathically, but understand what the other is feeling. So he's not able to make it back in time. He tries reaching out to her telepathically and he can feel her slipping away. Meanwhile, Spock is at her side trying to reach her as well. She's like calling out for Sarek. "Oh, Sarek, Sarek." Like, "No, I'm Spock." "No, Sarek." And he's not aware that his dad is reaching her mentally. They do make fleeting contact, but she eventually slips away. Spock, she dies. It's very touching. Spock goes into the garden, sheds a single tear that falls to the ground. He's
Tears?
outraged.
For us, Spock?
So, back on the Enterprise, the Enterprise picks up Sarek because that's the colony. Where they pick up Sarek, and Sarek tells Kirk about his theory, his idea, his findings, and Kirk is incredulous at first, but except that it comes from Sarek, and you got to respect him and believe him, and he does. So they need to know who is influencing all these peoples, and what does this have to do with the Freemans? And Sarek suspects the Freemans may be related to the Romulans in some way. So we get the Romulans involved. We got everybody in this story.
Everybody, come on
No
in.
kidding. Yeah, it's all right. The water's good. Come on in.
Back to Peter, we find out he was kidnapped and captured and taken aboard Camarang's ship. He's being used as bait to get to Captain Kirk. So Camarang says, "I'm going to torture you in front of Captain Kirk and then kill you and then kill him. It's going to be a great day." I've been looking forward to this a long time. And Peter says, "I'm not afraid to die." He actually attempts to escape, but just as he's heading towards the bridge, he's stopped by Valdir, of all people. She eventually subdues him, but she respects his honor and fighting abilities. So Camarang says, "All right, he's your ward. You have to make sure nothing happens to him because I need him to get Captain Kirk here." During this time, they spend time together. Peter gets to know quite a he already knows a lot about Klingon because he wants to be a diplomat.
Mm.
And he speaks in Klingon. She's more impressed because he's got fighting skills. He's brave. He's not afraid to die. He's almost Klingon himself. And they start to hit it off. Stockholm syndrome, anyone?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. But there's real feelings here. I'm going to flip back to Taran. Taran is actually revealed to be Wing Commander Taran, a Romulan in disguise. So we
Dun,
now find
dun,
out
dun.
that the Freemen are pretty much cloaked Romulans, literally wearing cloaks.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
Well,
invisible. Just,
they do have cloaking devices. They just happen to be in costumes.
we also get some good dialogue between Kirk and Sarek about Spock, because Spock is upset, and things were never really smooth between Sarek and Spock anyway. But
Hadn't
Kirk's
noticed.
trying to patch things up between the two. Peter and Valdir, meanwhile, are developing a plan. So the ship gets to, I think it's like a compound or something. It's like Camarang's family place on Kronos. Okay, and they're trying to escape. And Valdir says, "Hey, I used to come here as a kid. I know all the the secret panels and alleyways and things."
I know where all the bodies are buried. Literally, I
Yeah.
know where all the
Right.
Right.
She does not want to follow her uncle's plan to trap Kirk and watch Peter die, because she's developing feelings for him as well. And we get another scene with Karg saying, "Oh, I can't wait till we're married." Ho ho ho. And he's a scummy guy. You just want to throw him out an airlock.
You got a feeling he's like going to be dead by the end of this.
Yeah. Valdir is conflicted though. She is really loyal to the family. She understands Klingon family values. But on the other hand, she's saying what he's doing has no honor, so maybe I shouldn't do it. And Peter helps her realize which path she should take. So
The
Kirk
one that gets me out of here.
finds out where Peter is. So Kirk, Spock, and Bones take a shuttle and go on a rescue mission for Peter from Kronos. How a shuttle gets to Kronos, I don't know.
Yeah, do they address that at all?
I think they said it's small enough no one will notice or think it's a threat.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's
We
like
can invade Kronos. Just a lot of shuttles, guys. A lot of shuttles.
like a single engine Cessna landing in Heathrow.
We've got an armada coming. There's like 20 shuttles.
But they didn't manage to land very well. They actually crashed and walked away from it, but the shuttle was pretty much destroyed. So they had to find another way off. Peter and Valdir escape through some tunnels in the family compound and have some sexy time, and then escape into the woods towards a spaceport. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, they use a tricorder to find Peter. This starts out kind of slow in chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then they all sort of pull together because you've got the Klingons, and then you got Sarek doing his thing, and you get this snippet of Peter, and you get this. So it's all starting to come together. Once the action starts
you got
going,
Amanda being dead over here, and so,
right? Yeah, once Amanda dies, things really pick up. That didn't come out right.
No.
So,
Right.
they escape into the woods. Kirk and his crew are using a tricorder to find him. He's like, how many humans can there be on this planet, right? Well, they realize he's already escaped the compound. They hijack a vehicle and drive to the spaceport because they also need a vehicle to get out of there. Valdir and Peter are sort of crouching behind this rock going, "Hey, wait, shh, quiet, here comes somebody." And Valdir is ready to shoot first and ask questions later.
Right.
When they realize who it is, they go, whoa, hold it. It's my Uncle Jim and friends. Don't shoot them, because they think they're caught. And Valdir just wants to go out guns blazing, but they fall just short of that. This is when Peter tells his uncle and friends, "I'm in love with Valdir." And you can imagine his reaction, how much he loves Klingons at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, as long as you're happy, kind of thing.
Well, it's
As
also
long as you're
kind of
happy.
bizarrely intertwined. I did get through some of the book, in that the uncle blamed his motivation. He claims is that Kirk killing Krug on the Genesis planet.
Yeah.
is what he wants revenge for.
Yep.
And they're all going, but that was like years ago. Why suddenly
Right.
now? And he goes,
Well, this is where you find out at the end why. It's familiar. I'll see if I can dredge up the reference to this in the back of my head. It's starting to formulate. But anyway, they need a ship to escape. And just as they find one in this spaceport, Camarang, Karg, and his posse show up, and a battle ensues, and Valdir is actually stabbed So she's down, can't fight anymore, barely hanging on to life. And Peter goes into an absolute fit of rage against Karg and wins. Now, as crazy as it sounds,
What?
the fight scene is actually pretty well written.
Ah,
McCoy is able to stabilize Valdir, but he says, we need to get her out of here. They make their way to a ship called Taj, which is actually dagger in Klingon, I found out.
Hmm.
And Camarang's plan is to attack the Federation with his rogues and Taran, and then the Freemen and Romulans can finish them off. So he's going to pick a fight and then just sort of back away and watch the fireworks go off. That's his plan. And this is where Sarek's plan starts to take shape. So they're pursuing each other because Taran is on some cloaked Romulan ships, but they keep like showing up or they get readings in these random places. I think they're staring each other off across the neutral zone. And Sarek goes, wait a minute. The positions where he keeps appearing are they aligned to moves we made in the last 3D chess game we had?
ah.
And I know where he's going to appear next. So beam me over there.
Uh-oh.
What? Well, that's a lot of confidence in where you're going.
Yeah, because
But sorry, it's in
you're
space.
sure that's a good idea? And he goes,
Yeah.
I know it's a good idea. And I'm taking Spock with me.
Spock goes, what? Wait. When? I don't remember being consulted about this.
As a matter of fact, load up the whole family. Let's go.
Well, they need to basically plant a Trojan horse in the Romulan computers to prove what's going on. So this is when he finds out that Taran is actually not a Romulan,
Oh.
but he is a Vulcan living as a Romulan / Freeman. Ooh, double twist there. Didn't see that one coming.
I'll say, yeah. Well, I'll say, how many times has that happened?
And it's starting to feed into reunification at this point too. So we can see that starting to play out. We learned that decades ago, the Romulans had kidnapped some Vulcans off of ships, just randomly like, hey, there's a ship, kind of like piracy. They steal the Vulcans and then raise their children to be these attaches and use their superior mind abilities, because Vulcans have more mind abilities than Romulans, to influence others. That's where these Vulcan attaches, normally this would be a bad thing, and Vulcans go, no, that's ethically wrong. But since they've been raised by Romulans / Freemen, they have no such problems. Like, hey, I want you to like agitate these underlying seeds. They knew that Induna had some bad feelings at one point, so they just elevated those. They knew that Camarang was a little off-centered, so they just pushed him more off-center. That sort of thing. They're using them to escalate underlying feelings that were already there. That's how they're using these Vulcan children who are now grown up, and one of them was very close to Taran. So Sarek beams over to his ship successfully with Spock, and
They both go, "Phew, good thing you didn't change that move."
Right.
and they exchange some words, and Taran is just like very upset that he's been challenged, and he calls for the Cenopod duel with Sarek.
What's that?
It's a fight to the death, basically.
Ah,
But
With centipedes.
Taran gets to choose the weapon because he's
old age.
we didn't get the Lirpa. We didn't get any of that stuff. We got something like a handheld crescent knife. I imagine something like what whalers would use to cut the blubber off a whale.
Okay,
kind of that.
yeah.
It's something like that. But it could be a sickle. I don't know. But it's got poison on the edge. Now the deal is, if you get cut once, you're woozy and you can survive. You cut twice, you're in pretty bad shape. Cut 3 times, you're dead.
You know, it almost sounds like the challenge that Tasha Yar had to do.
Uh-huh.
Where
With the
thing,
spiky.
yeah.
Well, we have another great fight scene in the book. Sarek has done this before, but when he was much, much younger.
Mm.
And Taran is actually much younger and more agile, but Sarek's got his moves. He's got this little thing where he can flip it from his right hand to his left
He's like-
hand and keep
Yeah,
going.
Sarek
He doesn't have to fight with the weapon in one hand exclusively. He knows how to maneuver it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sarek has been cut once. He's a little woozy. He does this little flippy thing and manages to trick Taran and goes, and Taran is down. He says, I want to die. But they beam him over to the Enterprise, and McCoy is able to bring him back. He says,
Hey, that's exactly what happened to Tasha Yar. Or
Yep.
not her, but
She got brought back by McCoy? Wow.
No, Tasha,
I would have loved to seen that episode.
I
Very
just
weird.
happened to see it. I was watching Pluto, and Tasha Yar had stabbed the girl, and then she fell on her, and they transported them over to the Enterprise.
That was like a
and,
season 1
you
show.
know, yeah,
Well, it's got
it was
Tasha
very
Yar
much-
in it. So
When they
it was
were
a very
when they were
much
playing with the
season 1
monkey
show.
bars.
Yeah, it was very much season 1.
Okay, so soon after they get back, the Klingons come charging in and they encircle the Enterprise with a fleet of like 6 or 7 ships, and the Enterprise has no chance. However, Taran's ship says, this isn't really our fight, and they join forces with the Enterprise. And then Kirk, being Kirk, has to have a speech.
oh yes.
So he broadcasts to all the other Klingons going, this Cameron guy, no honor. Why are you following him? And some of them actually turn. So you've got Romulans fighting Klingons, Federation fighting Klingons, Klingons fighting Klingons, including Karaz, the guy who was originally on Deneb 4 and went, this is a waste of my time. Well, now he's attacking too. They're still losing, but at the last minute, the official Klingons come in under the Chancellor's. She goes, hey, the cavalry arrives in the form of the Klingons who are honorable. And it was a pretty decent fight scene. Yeah, as it were. That sounds like a video game or something, but that's pretty much the end. We had a close call for the Enterprise. Valdir gets a job at the diplomatic corps. Camarang actually kills himself.
Oh my.
We get another journal entry from Amanda at the end. Peter, when he was at the academy, they kept jumping back and going, he's just before he got abducted, he was supposed to be taking the Kobayashi Maru. So they let him take a makeup test, I guess.
Make up Kobayashi Maru. You only have to save half the ship. It's fine.
He actually passes without cheating.
Ooh.
Take that, Uncle Jim.
I like that
we do
picture
have-
you're showing of Peter. It looks like a redheaded Kirk.
It's an AI generated Peter.
I know. I said it. It looks very redheaded with a red beard and like Kirk.
He's been through a lot.
Yeah,
In the
we said-
story.
We get some lead-ins to Star Trek Next Generation, Unification 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Conference on Kronos, where Spock is introduced to Romulan Senator Pardek. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
And on Vulcan, Sarek spreads Amanda's ashes in the garden she built and was cultivated for years. They had a funeral on Mount Seleia, and I think they did mention the elevator. But
I took pictures, but they
So-
Yeah.
as I mentioned, it started slow. It was kind of disconnected with these storylines, but then you're introduced to Peter, the Kale, Amanda dying, as we said, but it picks up. It picks up. Yeah, I think it was 12 or 13 chapters, and around 6 is where things get going. We've got some
Okay.
good battle scenes in Camarang's compound, escaping Kronos, Sarek and Turin, and Peter and Karg. I enjoyed Amanda's journal entries, followed by Sarek's memories. Peter was more than just an add-in character to this story. He actually contributed quite a bit to the story with Valdir, getting her to turn on family. He was a hero for a large part of it, so he fit in well. And I have heard some other people. I did some reviews after I had written mine. Darren said over on the movie blog that he praised Mark Leonard for his ability to make Sarek such an enduring character. I mean, he was only in a
Mhm.
handful of appearances.
Well, it's
Yeah.
more than I thought when I went to, because I was trying to get pictures of them, and I said, "Well, that's ridiculous. Everybody knows what Sarek looks like." But he's in an episode of the original series.
Yep.
He's in an episode of The Next Generation.
Yep.
He's in an episode of the animated series, and
Yep.
he's in 3 of the movies. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he was in Search for Spock.
Yeah, well, 2 of the movies, right? Search for Spock and The Voyage Home.
Yeah.
So,
And not just Mark Leonard, but remember Sarek was in Discovery as well.
right, but talking about specifically about Mark Leonard for
Yeah,
especially at
right,
this
right.
point when that's all the person would be have knowledge of.
Mhm.
So he said AC Crispin Sarek offers a fascinating glimpse at one of the show's most compelling guest stars. Even if the novel does suffer from a bit of trying to fix some of the problems that the author seems to see with Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. They were saying like, oh, well, that must be why Cartwright, Chang, and Valeris and some of the others, they must have been mentally coerced too.
Yeah, I thought that was
Plausible.
a bit of a stretch, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I could also believe it. You know?
Yeah, it's plausible.
Yeah,
So it kind of
yeah.
gives that.
I
And
think everybody had a weird perspectives in that particular scenario.
well, by doing so, you excuse them and you stay more true to Gene Roddenberry's vision of Starfleet. That's
Mm.
kind of where they were going. It's like, no, nobody'd
Right,
ever be
right.
upset with the way Starfleet runs things. Maquis.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
Maki.
I read this in about 5 days. It was a great book. I found 2 typos though. While they were fighting, they should have said Peter careened across the hallway, and they said he careered across the hallway.
Well, maybe he was leveling up at that point.
He was getting a job as he was going.
And
Buffy.com, here's my
They-
resume.
they said if the message didn't go through, and it should have said then X, Y, and Z were doomed, but it was than. They had it like, oh, editor, you should have picked up on some of those. A spell check,
Yeah.
grammar check. But hey, it was 1996. Word 2.0 wasn't there.
We didn't have grammar checks back then.
That's right.
Yeah, we did. But everybody
In
turned them off
96?
because they were bad.
They're actual people.
Right?
I enjoyed it. Like I said, I got through it in about 5 days. Yeah, it's a fairly substantial, about an inch,
Yeah.
2 centimeters.
It's about
thick.
as big as the one I've got right there.
So you say. So you say. You have that
Yeah.
one right there.
Hey, so one of my takeaways from this is Mount Salea is a busy place. So
It
if
is.
you're
You
gonna-
got to make
if you're gonna-
reservations.
You got to
Yeah, I was gonna
rent
say,
it.
if you're making an event, if you're having an event, plan it about 6 months ahead of time.
Well, come on, look at the view. Look at that
My wife's
view.
not feeling well. We might need a funeral. Look at the view.
Yeah.
The Grand Canyon of Vulcan.
Yeah.
So I will pass this on to Craig when we're on the Star Trek cruise. It's up to you if you choose to read it or not.
I'll read it.
I enjoyed it. You can sit out on the sunny deck and read the book.
Actually, I don't know about you guys, but I'm enjoying reading like these books and
They're
other
fun.
external stories outside of the
Out of the
Star Trek
series.
canon that we know. Yeah.
And there's a ton of them. If you look inside some of those paperbacks, like I finished up the Voyager story, The
Oh,
Murdered
yes.
Sun, there's just dozens of them. And Donna's going through the list going, I read that. I think I wrote that. Just out of
Really?
30 books, I think she's read at least half of them.
Yeah.
Really? All right.
And they do, fun things like in this book, they as I said, Cybok actually is mentioned in the book because Sarek is married before Amanda in a betrothed marriage that is
Mhm.
just she's attained Kolinar, this woman, and the marriage just doesn't last.
Yep.
But the son,
You're right.
Yeah,
You're
son-
too logical, damn it.
There's a lot of backstory to that.
Yeah.
Right.
The
But-
Sarek's probably like, oh my gosh.
I was
You
saying to
away
Bonnie,
all
one of
your
the
limits.
weird things about it is so we have that explanation. So, okay, that's good. And then Spock goes and says, well, yes, because they're talking about Romulans, and Spock goes, yes, I was shocked the first time I saw a Romulan because he looked like you. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Didn't have to go there, really.
Right. Well, so, hey, listener, one of the other things we're going to look at is some Star Trek comics,
Mhm.
which we started. Clinton had sent me the Star Trek Early Voyages, which is kind of that crossover between Pike and Enterprise. Is that what it was? I'm not sure, but a lot of the characters that you see in Strange New Worlds are in there for sure, and it crosses over for a lot of stuff. So I'm enjoying the one issue I have, and I was like, I got finished with. Okay, I'm gonna go find the rest, and it's kind of hard
So maybe I'll
as
have to
far
look and
as
see if there are any sort of, order we need to take them in, because I gave everybody comics from that series,
Mhm.
and I didn't think to because I thought they were standalones, but if they kind of bounce from one to the next, then maybe we'll take a look.
No,
I mean, there's probably
it's a
gaps between them and everything, but still.
yeah, it's a series because I thought I had gotten lucky and found it on Amazon, but then it said it was the series 2. I went, "Oh, wait, I want the first one. I'm in the first series. There's another series omnibus you can buy." And I went, "No, no, no. I want the first one to kind of see what happened before this issue and after this issue," but I didn't see that listed.
Okay. Yeah, and I bought that bundle of this it's the digital version of a whole slew of Star Trek comics. It's like I think it was like 50 comics for
Yeah.
$20 or something like that. Exactly, Eric. So
Yeah.
they come from all sorts of, you get Deep Space Nine and original series and next gen, and just a whole bunch of different things in there.
You know, I did the same thing. I actually got it was a humble bundle of
Humble
Star Trek.
bundle, humble
Yeah.
bundle.
Say it 3 times fast. Uh of Star Trek comics, and um yeah, there's a bunch of them in there. No,
Well,
I
there's a
don't
lot
think
of
it's
them
the
out
early
there.
Star Trek. Huh?
Every episode in the show notes, there's a listing of a couple of different comics that have the new, because now we even have Lower Decks comics. I think they're up to number 4 in the Lower Decks comics.
Yeah, I've got Star Trek, and there's like a bunch of them in there, and then there was Next Generation / Doctor Who assimilation. There's that, and then there's Star Trek Year 4, Star Trek Year 4, The Enterprise Experiment. So there's a bunch of them right there. Yeah.
All right, so definitely comics will be coming up on our radar
Yeah.
later this year.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I think unless anybody else has anything to say besides Eric's, who certainly always has something to say, and Charlie, who has something to say, it's time to refill the lithium chamber and try to warp on out of here. But first, quick plug. You can find me at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4. Had a new episode released a short time ago. Got another episode coming up, and scripts have started to go out for The Big Story. So that's exciting. That'll be coming up as well.
I'm
And
still looking for mine.
I said they just started. I didn't say they were
Okay.
all. I said they just started to go out.
Yes, sir. Okay. That's
And
my
who
line.
speaks for you guys, I say.
Go ahead, Chuck.
You can find us by searching for Technorama Podcast on the internet. You'll eventually wind up on our site, chuckchat.com. We hope, if things are
Yeah, we
still
hope.
working.
A little luck.
And, where Craig and I do a weekly podcast about tech, science, space, fun stuff, retro futures. We just have a good time hanging out. So thank you to everybody who is already listening. And if you're not, we hope to see you there.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Time to hit the theme, boys.
This one.
If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on X at The Topic is Trek, on Blue Sky at The Topic is Trek. Visit our Facebook page or call us at 816-TREKKER. That's 816-873-5537. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek,
Don't
put
Put on
a red shirt.
shirt. No, don't do it.
It would be illogical.
Audio recording has concluded.
Yay!
All right.
All right. Well, those of you watching this after we've done recording, thank you for watching, and we will be back. The schedule, I'm sure, is going to be get a little tight here now because the cruise is coming up and so forth. But we'll be back, and we'll be talking about another book, as we wait to find out when Strange New Worlds is possibly going to premiere, hopefully sometime this year. But we have lots of content, comics and books and other things to do in the meantime, so be sure to stay tuned. All right, I'm going to sign us off for now. Live long and prosper.
Bye, everybody.